Welcome everyone to this week's live stream. As you can tell, we have a big group of people here relatively to the other weeks. We're lucky enough this week to have Edgar and Corin from Cassette.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Which is a very special live stream for us. And we wanted to, they were in Paris. We wanted to bring them in and share their story with the whole Voodoo community. What's so special, I think, is that they've been through a lot of, what all of our studios go through, but they have their own story. As you'll see, the user is always at the center, or the player is always at the center of everything that they do. And yeah, I'll just leave it to you guys now to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. Thanks for having us. So actually, as you know, guys, we talk a lot about the Aqua Park and the Bounce Forever, and today I wanted to talk a lot about what we have done before we had Aqua Park and Bounce Forever. So, as all of you know, publishing a game is a tough thing to do. So, everything you do during this process fails all the time. So yeah. So we had a lot of fails too, as you can tell. So yeah, I wanted to show you actually the prototypes that we've made before we got our first hit, which is Bounce Forever. And yeah, as you can tell, we had no experience in hyper-casual game making. So yeah, we had a lot of prototypes failed before, and here you can see them. And yeah, what we've learned out of this, I want to tell you guys, is that it's a hard process to do, because making a hyper casual game is, my definition is, you have to make an experience for the people that they have to come back to feel it again and again. So it's not an easy thing to find something that everyone likes, because that's what you have to do when you make a hyper-casual game. So you have to really focus on what feelings do you give to the people during your game, and you have to make those feelings more and more vibrant. And so yeah, that's what makes a good hyper-casual game. So yeah, you as you could see, I showed you the prototypes that we failed before Bounce Forever. And yeah, Bounce Forever was our first hit ever, and a first successful game ever. And yeah, but even after having the Bounce Forever, we had 1.5 years, I believe, right? 1.5 years of prototyping and failing again before we had aquapark.io. Yeah, as you can see now, there are the prototypes that we failed before we've reached Aquapark. Yeah, and I know how that feels for most of the studios, especially when you're a small studio or an independent game developer. It's hard to treat the failures of your prototypes the correct way. And the correct way is, you have to understand, guys, that every time you fail a prototype, you take something out of it. So I never name it a failure. It's more of a lesson for me. Um, so yeah, what actually made the Aqua Park such a successful game is it's more connected like with the fails that we had before and the stuff that we've learned, and we couldn't learn them if we didn't fail before. Here you can see all the prototypes that we made before, and all of these failed. Sometimes, and even sometimes, you get like several iterations of the same product, and after it fails, it feels like frustrating. But you know, you have to keep yourself up. And yeah, so after a year and a half after Bounce Forever, we've made the Aqua Park, which was like a big hit for us and for Voodoo. Yeah, and actually we've learned a lot during those failures, as I told. So I can tell you like a little bit more about stuff that you don't know about Aqua Park. We can maybe change back to the camera. Thanks. Yeah, so there are some small things in Aqua Park that we don't talk about, but they are the part of the success. As I told you, you have to make an experience for the people to come back for, and also you have to make sure every feeling that you like make for the player to feel, you have to make it as vibrant and as focused as you can. And here what I'm talking about. When you pay attention of the winning part of the Aqua Park, when you jump like out of the tube at the end, and when you win, no matter how many like other players are far away behind you, every time you win, you will see other players like behind you, near, during the jump part. And we call this feature fake losers. We've made it to like make the winning feeling more like vibrant. And yeah, so it's much more like it feels better to see not only you winning but others losing. So no matter how far they are behind you, every time you win, we've made sure that you see the other people losing behind you. So and that had a good impact on the retention. And also we did this kind of stuff during the gameplay. So every time you kick out the players, we've made sure that you can see like during several seconds the people that you've kicked out. So this makes the feeling of kicking out and like hitting other players like more focused, so you can like really enjoy the moment that you've hidden someone. And yeah, and you know, also I want to encourage studios to never treat the failures the way that I see a lot of guys do. So I see a lot of guys are in a lack of motivation these days, because I know it's tough in the market right now. It's not easy to do, but yeah, you have to really understand that the failures are what makes your hit game that is coming on the future a hit game. So yeah.
Okay, that's super interesting. Thanks so much, Edgar and Corin. And obviously, Aqua Park was a massive success. So we do have a few questions from the audience on this. But once again, congrats on the success of Aqua Park. I think it's refreshing to see also that, as you mentioned, you know, it takes a lot of failures to achieve success. And I think one strength that you guys have had, and many other studios are getting, is to say why did it fail, and is there a curve of a progression in our prototypes? If not, how can we fix that? And when I look at the amount of thinking that you did in the idea of the game, and then in the several layers of gameplay that you put into the game, and we went over it on another live stream, even before building it, I think it's clear that your efforts were like, you can tell that all that work went into the game, and that it wasn't necessarily, it's not a build that you came up with, you know,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
3 days. It took a lot of work, a couple months
Yeah,
of
3 months
work.
actually. Of
And you guys
prototyping.
were saying actually offline, you know, your work ethic has been absolutely amazing. I mean,
Thanks.
we're not telling the whole community to do this, but like the fact that you were on this 7 days a week, basically offline. I remember, you know, whenever we had to talk, it was immediately possible.
Yeah.
And I think I think that you can tell in the game that those things came out, and that's why I think we have so many questions right now about Aquapark, about how you guys went about. But I think before we jump into that, there is one question that kind of stood out. You know, given the amount of, you know, the few failures that it took to get there, which was a question from Paul, and his question is, did you ever think, as you design all these prototypes and you failed, did you ever think of quitting hyper casual, basically?
Actually, you know, never, because, you know, yeah, I mean, you can have thoughts like that because it's, uh, again, it's hard to like treat the failures the correct way because, I mean, you have a life, right? You have to know that what you're doing will pay back like whenever. But you know, and we get a lot of questions like this, like, have you ever tried to fail or try to like quit or stuff? But we've never, because we were motivating each other a lot, and um, of course we had thoughts like that. But at the end of the day, the the courage of like continuing what you do is brings you like there.
Actually, we know that for a big success, you must have a lot of failures. Yeah, and that's why before the Aquapark IO, we had about 20 games failed.
Yeah, and I even know a studio of yours that failed like 30 prototypes
30.
before having the successful one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly. And these things happen, and you try to reduce the you know, the failure rate,
Yeah.
but it is, you know, ultimately, I think that it brings another topic which we were also discussing before this, which is that, you know, keeping the users, so mass market players, in mind, rather than maybe thinking about a game that you would like to build, or a gamer's game.
yeah.
The fact that you guys have really taken that to heart, I think, really shows in a game like Aquapark, but also in some of the other prototypes and games that we tested. So let's shoot for maybe another question.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a question from Remy. Did you feel that Aquapark would be published as you were building it? Did you have maybe more confidence than on other prototypes? And if so,
Actually,
why?
yeah. Actually, you know, when we first launched, the stats were okay. They were like promising, but as you know, we spent like 3 months on it, and after a month or something, we thought that we had thoughts like maybe this is a prototype that we should kill. But you know, every time we've tried, we saw like a little more potential because we've made a lot of iterations on it, as you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every time we did, we saw like a little bit going like more better and better.
Yeah.
So that what kept like to not to quit this prototype, not to kill it. So we felt like it has a potential.
Awesome. And then I think there's another question which is a bit broader, and which is interesting. I think this speaks also to what, you know, what is your background, and like when you think of game ideas. The question is from Samuelson. So how do you stay? I think it's a broader question. So that question is, how do you stay on top of trends? But I think it's worth also extending that question to, how do you come up with game ideas? How do you refine the ideas? Do you guys, it's just basically the two or three of you, so do you get in a room? Do you bounce the ideas off each other?
Yeah,
I mean,
actually,
how does that work?
you know, as I told you, this is a product. A hyper-casual game is a product for the mass market, for like a lot of people and different categories of people. So every time you have an idea of a game, you have to filter it like, w- there are some questions that we ask. Does this game like deserve to be on the top like five of the charts, or does this game has enough like uh, good things for all of types of people? So as you mentioned, there are like people who are gamers. They try to build like games for the gamers, but when you build a hyper casual game, when you try to come up with these kind of ideas, you have to understand that you have to find something that is for all of types of people. So for the mass market. So what we do actually for the ideation is we try to talk to as much people as we can. So we make a lot of like brainstorming with random people. So every time we like we do a lot of brainstormings with girls. We do a lot of brainstormings with like older people and try to ask them questions. What kind of games would you like to play, or what kind of games do you like to play that exists, so we can extract something out of it or filter something out of it. And you get a lot of ideas out of this, and you have to filter and find something like using your experience, your own experience. So you have to find some of the ideas that are worth trying.
That's really interesting because I think we've always encouraged, based on what we see working, studios to show their builds, their Diaois, their prototypes to random people and look at how they react. But you guys actually took it a step further, which is to define the idea with those kind of mass market people. And that is a great learning. I think that's something we will probably apply more internally, externally. And it speaks to your approach, I think, and your backgrounds, because you guys were telling me, I mean, you're not necessarily gamers.
Yeah,
generally.
We're not actually.
I think you mentioned.
I mean, we like to play like Call of Duty sometimes,
yeah,
but we're not like hardcore players.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned, I think, Edgar, that that you had barely played Mario Kart.
Yeah, actually, you know, every time we talk about Aqua Park with people, they all of them says that like this is like so common with the Mario Kart. Have you tried it? Have you played it? Have you seen it? Or are you like?
Have you heard of it?
Have you heard of it? Yeah. And actually, I have like never played Mario Kart before.
Yeah, me too.
I just watched 2 YouTube videos after you mentioned like.
And I think that's the secret. I think probably, guys, no one should play Mario Kart. That
I don't know.
Actually, we are not gamers.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that might be the, you know, one of the things behind your success is also, you know, if you're not a gamer, then maybe there's less of a preconception, and so you go out there and you try to crowdsource ideas in a way, crowdsource experiences, bounce them off people regularly, because I guess maybe there's less of an assumption that you know what you need to do. But whatever it is, I mean, it is very refreshing to see that. And I was really astounded when you said that. So let's see. Maybe we can move on to a few more questions.
Yeah, sure, cool. Sure.
Awesome. So I think we answered Bitcoin Master's question on ideation. And then there was another question from Homemade Games, which is, do you guys work on one game at a time, or do you work on more prototypes, you know, at the same time? Like, how is your, I guess, your sprint approach to game design?
Actually, we're working on one game at a time. We have tried a lot making 2 games, multiple games at the same time, but the results were not as good as we want to be. Yeah. And when we are working on a single game, we put all of our efforts to that game. We're thinking about that game every day, every time, and I think it's better to work on one game. Actually, we are 2 now, and it's hard for us to work on multiple games. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, I think like for the small studios, it's better to focus on one game because when we did Aqua Park, we had like 2. We tried to make the second game as well, as you remember, but it like we've quitted the prototype because we saw the potential in Aqua Park. So, you know, every time we make a game, we don't like make the game during the hours that we work at the office, but we like think about the game all the rest of the day. I mean, when I go to sleep, I always open the avis that he sends me, and I like try to play it and write like a lot of thoughts, ideas about it before I sleep, because my brain like works at 2 a.m. better than during the day. So yeah, it's I think it's better to focus on one prototype, especially if you're like a small team.
Awesome. I think there's another question related to, I guess, the way you work, the output that you guys have. So I think you guys have, enjoyed honestly a well-deserved bit of a break after Echo Park. I mean,
sure.
and that's not like right after launch, because even the launch process requires some work, some A/B testing and stuff. But if we take before that period, like how many prototypes? The question is, how many prototypes a month on average were you testing? Because I think and before you address that, it really depends on the studios, and there is no magic formula. But it is interesting to see what your approach has been.
In average, the stats that I remember is like one prototype every like 2 weeks maybe, or a week even. Sometimes we like to like finish things faster, but actually we spend a lot of time at the office before we did Aquapark and before we took a break, and we spent like 7 days a week at the office. I remember even we were working even during our birthdays sometimes. And yeah, we just had because we just had the goal set, and we get a lot of questions like this, like how many, like in average, how many prototypes you have to fail to get one successful or something. But I mean, I don't know. No one's really trying to be average. I think the best thing in life too is to like challenge yourself and to complete the goals that you set. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Cool. I guess let's see if there's maybe a few more questions. We'll probably take a couple more if you guys are cool with that.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And then wrap it up. Now we've got some questions, and this question comes over and over again, and it is a valid question. It's a tricky question in today's market, where you have low CPI games with low amount of depth that are kind of hovering, surfacing at the top of the charts, but actually they're thin gameplays, and it is a concern, because if you see, I think if the community sees these games as top charting, I won't name them because there's a few, and everyone's launched a few, every publisher. I guess the question is, as you come up with new ideas, the way you do, and as you test them, like how fast do you test a new idea? Do you need how many levels, I guess, but more importantly, what is the kind of consideration you guys have regarding CPI on the one hand, which is like how marketable is the game? Does it scale? Is it niched, or is it mass market? And on the other hand, depth and in other words, lifetime value, like how much retention are we going to get? Do you guys kind of split your thinking into both as you consider ideas, or do you basically think more like, okay, let's forget about all that stuff and let's focus on, is this fun and can everyone play it? And how do you guys consider those things?
Actually, during the ideation, we think more about like how scalable the game is in terms of like doing a lot of stuff after prototyping it, because when we first made the Aquapark, we knew that it's a big game, and we knew that it has a lot of space to work, a lot of things to add. So yeah, and actually during the prototyping we don't think much about the retention. I think the better way is to think, is the gameplay is enough for the CPI first, because it has to be like it has to like invite people from the video, invite a lot of players into the game. And yeah, the CPI is the better way to focus on it. It's my opinion. And because for the retention you can do a lot of like balancing and stuff during the prototyping, and a lot of ideas come during the prototyping. It's like based on our own experience. So but the CPI is something that is hard to fix, so you first have to think about the CPI.
That's really interesting. I really like the expression inviting people into the game. Because obviously once they're in the game, you're also inviting them again with onboarding level 1, 2, 3. But actually, the ad inviting users in is a
it has to attract people a lot. And as you remember, in Aqua Park, we saw that not as much girls are coming as we would wish. So we changed the avatar, the character, to a girl in a bikini. So it started to invite more and more people, especially the females.
We're going to see a lot of girl avatars in all of our prototypes now. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And that rule has been tried on many games, and it's not a rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's not, definitely.
But I see what you mean. And really, I mean, you're right, because the game was playable by both genders. There's no reason it should be a more masculine game than it's not a shooter game. And therefore, making some design adjustments were helpful, because actually, it was able to retain both.
Another reason for that is in the base of the idea. I mean, Aqua Park is something that everyone experienced during their lives, and what we did a lot during the prototyping is we thought what feelings we can give to the players that they can't get during the real Aqua Park experience. So you can kick other players out. That is something that people like a lot. That's kind of a sad little bit, but that's true. Yeah, and you can jump from the tube and land, and this kind of aggressive stuff that you can't do in real life. That is the experience that we've tried to give people. So that I was talking about, the experience that they have to come back for. Yeah. That is something new for them, and that is what they are coming back for.
Awesome. Cool. I think there's one more question that we can take today, guys. And the question is, again, from Homemade. Luck at the draw. But the question is, what is the next step for you guys now?
Wow. That's a big question, actually. But, anyways, the next step always for us now is to keep prototyping. And, I mean, there is a lot of good games that are coming that have to be brought to the world together. So we will try to make everything to bring another hit.
And actually, we do like making games. We like the process of making hyper-casual games. It's fun for us.
And I remember the question that you asked. Have you ever thought of quitting? But yeah, that is the base. If you like what you're doing, and we do like what we're doing, because we were thinking about making games since when we were kids. I think already 7 years ago we come up with the idea. Six years ago. So if you really like what you're doing, that's definitely worth it, and you will never quit it if you like it, even if it's not bringing results yet.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and for
thanks for having us,
going through your story. Guys, we'll be back with another live stream in the next week or the following, to be confirmed. And thanks a lot for listening. Please continue to post your questions. We will try to address stuff as they come along, either in our FAQ or in the next live stream. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.